Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. A small town in western Arkansas is gearing up for Christmas, completely unaware of how this joyful holiday is about to be overshadowed by darkness. It all starts with a police report about the sudden disappearance of a 19-year-old college student. A local girl has gone missing. We're handing out flyers, trying to gather any information we can. We'd appreciate it if you'd take one. The search is just ramping up when her car is discovered in the parking lot of a local bowling alley, along with a golden hair clip nearby. We're praying for Missy's safety. We're praying for her safe return. That's what we're asking God for, and we hope He'll help her. After these chilling details emerge, the search turns into something far more sinister. The FBI gets involved. Hello, dear. Are you on the line? Yes. This morning, someone came to my work. He was from the FBI. The investigation uncovers increasingly gruesome clues and quickly leads detectives to one suspect. Police are searching rural roads in Franklin, Washington, and Crawford counties. Then a second, third, fourth, fifth. The girl was very outgoing. It's highly unlikely she would do something like this, from what I know of her, and we're all just shocked and stunned by it. At this point, it becomes clear to the detectives that they're dealing with a case unlike anything they've encountered before. A case they weren't prepared for. Missy, right now we're doing everything we can to find you. If you're out there somewhere, just hold on. We're doing all we can to find you soon. And we love you. Just hold on. Thursday, December 1st, 1994, begins as an ordinary day in Fort Smith, Arkansas. The town, nestled comfortably on the border with Oklahoma, is buzzing with anticipation for Christmas. Streets are adorned with lights, and residents are counting down the days to the holiday. The morning for 19-year-old Melissa Witt unfolds in her usual routine. The smart and friendly college student wakes up early to get ready for classes. Before leaving, she asks her mother, Mary, for a little money to borrow. Her car has been leaking oil for a while, and it needs fixing. But the woman refuses, sparking a brief argument between them. Without lingering, Melissa heads to her car and drives to college. After classes, she meets a friend, and they grab a quick lunch at a local cafe, sharing news, jokes, and plans. Then she heads to work. At 5 p.m., she finishes her shift, gets into her white Mitsubishi Mirage, and turns the key. But the engine stays silent. The battery is dead. She came in to ask how to jumpstart the car. We decided to go try it together, and we managed to find someone nearby who helped. In the end, she got it started. The car fired up without issues. She realized she'd left the headlights on while at the mall, and we left. When Melissa Witt returns home after work, she finds a note from her mother. It invites her to Bowling World to play and grab some burgers. This is their regular ritual, one that's happened dozens of times before. Mary promises to pay for dinner, hoping to smooth over the minor morning disagreement. Mrs. Witt waits for her daughter at the bowling alley, but she never shows up. The woman assumes Melissa might have gone straight to meet friends after work, so she doesn't worry. It had happened before. Mary heads home, takes a shower, and tends to small chores before bed, expecting her daughter. But the hours tick by, and she's still not there. As the clock passes midnight, fear begins to creep into the loving mother's heart. Her daughter is free to come and go, but she always sleeps at home and lets her know if she's staying out late. This behavior is out of character. So Mary Witt starts calling the girl's friends, relatives, and acquaintances she might turn to in a crisis. By 3 a.m., she's driving around the streets of Fort Smith, trying to spot Melissa. The only thing she's learned so far is that the missing girl didn't meet up with her group, but she had told several friends she'd be at classes tomorrow as usual. On the morning of December 2nd, at 9 a.m., when it's clear her daughter hasn't come home, Mary calls the Fort Smith Police Department. A patrol officer arrives to take the report. He asks the standard questions: age, height, weight, where Melissa was last seen. Then he inquires, "Was there any argument between you?" Mrs. Witt recalls, "Yes, there was a minor misunderstanding about money, nothing serious." But the officer interprets this his own way and forms his own theory of what happened. Maybe the girl just got upset and left. She'd come back in a day or two. Mary tries to explain that it wasn't like that. It wasn't a fight or a major conflict. Her daughter isn't the type to slam the door and vanish. She's not a runaway, not a rebel. However, to the police, it looks like just another case of teenage defiance. The disappearance of young Whit isn't taken seriously by the cops. The system follows protocol. They need to wait 24 hours from the last sighting, which was when Melissa left work that evening. The anxious mother senses time is working against them, so she continues searching for her girl on her own. Although the police told the worried mother to wait 24 hours before officially declaring Melissa missing, the report is filed, meaning it automatically goes into the daily incident summary that Fort Smith law enforcement shares with local media. This practice still exists today, especially in small towns. Back in 1994, it was pretty much the only source of news on local incidents for newspapers, radio, and TV stations. That's how the disappearance of Melissa Whit catches the eye of a young reporter, Charlene Shirk. The woman, relatively new to the field, is full of enthusiasm and a desire to help people. Seeing the alert that a 19-year-old student vanished the previous evening, Charlene turns to her colleagues and boss with a question. The info is confirmed. They're looking, but no one has answers. Shirk is surprised. How can that be? A young woman is gone, and no one cares. And it seems that's the case. Otherwise, law enforcement would be bombarding the newsroom with requests to spread Melissa's photo and contact info as quickly as possible. Concerned, Charlene heads straight to the station, where she's told the same as Mary, and 24 hours haven't passed. The girl is probably out having fun. It'll happen. She'll return. The journalist isn't satisfied with this attitude. Okay, you haven't declared her missing, but you can do something like give patrolling officers a description of the car so they can react if they spot it and notify the girl that she's being looked for, and in turn, let the family know she's alive. The officer is clearly annoyed and tells the reporter they'll start acting in 24 hours and not sooner. Charlene Shirk doesn't argue but asks the policeman to repeat what he said on camera. Is he that sure that only rules are holding him back and nothing else? The man abruptly changes his stance and issues the alert to colleagues currently patrolling Fort Smith streets. All units, be on the lookout for Melissa Whit. White female, 19 years old. Last seen Thursday, December 1st, around 1750. Possible Arkansas license plate, YBT 650. YBT 650. Having won this small but crucial victory for herself, Charlene heads to the campus of the college where Melissa Whit studies, and she's pleased to discover that the student community, having learned about their friend's disappearance, isn't willing to wait for police action either and has already organized a search campaign. This is the last week before finals on the U of a Fort Smith campus. But instead of that, many of these students are wondering, what happened to their friend Melissa? Fort Smith.
I'm Charlene Shirk.
Channel 5 News. No one believes Melissa ran away. Melissa was a member of our student ambassador group at Pride West Arc for about 2 years. A very, very sweet girl, very outgoing. It's extremely unlikely she would do something like this, from what I know of her. And we're all just shocked and stunned by it. Of course, very concerned. She never missed anything and always showed up on time. So I'm completely puzzled about what really happened. From what I know of Melissa, I don't think she would run away and that's what happened. Even if she did, I think she would contact her family. Maybe not her parents, someone else, so everyone knows she's okay. Those who know Melissa understand this isn't like her. She's a very responsible person. She always leaves notes for her mother telling where she's going. Just running away isn't her style. A massive search begins. Thousands of flyers are distributed throughout the River Valley by December 2nd and 3rd. A local girl is missing. We're handing out flyers, trying to get any information we can. We'd appreciate it if you'd take this. And if you know anything about what happened, just let us know. Be sure to call the police or the number listed there. Even if you just spot a similar car, we'd be grateful. From what I know, she went missing around 5 p.m. last Thursday. Apparently, she was at work that evening and maybe went to eat. And no one's seen her since. Missy and I were best friends for 16 years. And in 16 years, she never did anything like this and never would. If she had problems, she didn't run from them. She would call me. She didn't take anyone with her, and that's not like her. She's someone for whom friends are very important. The student initiative is quickly joined by the entire Fort Smith community. Neighbors, acquaintances, and complete strangers come, take flyers, and go distribute them, posting them all over town to raise awareness and increase the chances of finding Melissa alive and unharmed as soon as possible. But days pass, and still nothing is known about the missing girl. No one is giving up, though. I want my friend back. I want my sister back. Our friends want her back. Her mom wants her back. Her dad wants her back. If this is a joke, it's gone too far. We assume that if Melissa was really with someone, they might have stopped at a gas station to buy fuel. Plus, with the holiday season starting, a lot of people are coming to town for shopping. And we hope that with such a flow of arrivals and departures, there's a chance someone saw something important. She wouldn't do this. She would never leave without calling her mother. Melissa missed her when away and would definitely contact someone by now. Plus, she has no money to run away. Through detailed reports by Charlene Shirk on the massive search for Melissa Witt, other media outlets learn about it, pick up the story, and start broadcasting segments with her photo and contact details for the family, police, and the group of concerned people desperately searching for her. Thanks to this, on the evening of December 4th, officers receive a call from an employee at Bowling World, who reports that on the 1st, one of their customers handed the administrator a set of keys found in the parking lot around 7:45 p.m. The keychain says Missy, could be a short form of Melissa. The investigator calls Mary and asks if her daughter had such a thing. And the woman says yes. That's what all her close ones call the girl. She also clarifies that the missing girl carried all her keys on that ring. From home, her college locker, and her car. Officers immediately head to the bowling alley, realizing that if Witt was there and lost them herself or was attacked in the lot, the car should be nearby. That's where they find it, intact. On the morning of December 5th, 1994, the initial conclusions from law enforcement sound encouraging. This morning around 8:30, a patrol found the car parked near Bowling World here in Fort Smith. The vehicle was towed to the police impound. No signs of foul play were found in it. Everything's fine. The car was locked and looked normal. It's not being treated as a crime scene because at this point, we don't think a crime even occurred. The car was found in normal condition. Nothing disturbed, as if it was just parked and left. The car is indeed in normal condition, and nothing suggests anything happened inside it. However, that same morning, detectives and forensics arrived to thoroughly examine the vast parking area. It rained overnight, complicating their work. But even in those conditions, they find spots with clear blood traces, where apparently there was so much in certain areas that light rain couldn't wash it all away. New information on the disappearance of Melissa Witt brings no hopeful news. Police now report that pools of blood were found in the Bowling World parking lot. The blood, identified as human, was discovered not far from where Missy's car was found. A small gold hoop earring and a hair comb were also found by detectives searching the area. All items were sent to the crime lab, but there's no info yet on whether the blood belongs to Melissa. The Witt case now moves to the Major Crimes Unit of the Fort Smith Police Department. She didn't leave voluntarily. The girl was clearly taken from here by force, attacked and injured, likely in the head to stun her. Such injuries cause significant blood loss, which clearly occurred. Characteristic red traces are also found at the lot exit and along the path from it to where Melissa parked. In total, 10 or 11. Obviously, upon arriving at the bowling alley, the sought-after girl got out of her car, locked the door, and was intercepted by someone. A conflict erupted, a struggle, as the girl lost a couple of jewelry items, and one was even damaged. Then she was struck, likely lost consciousness, and the attacker simply dragged her to his vehicle and drove off. Investigators know the first 48 hours after a disappearance are critically important in a missing person case. And they've been hopelessly lost because their colleagues didn't deem the situation serious enough when the unfortunate's mother asked for help. Mary, however, doesn't blame them, though she's devastated by the incoming news. After Melissa's disappearance Thursday evening, her friends distributed thousands of flyers with her photo and car description. Then Sunday morning, police found her white Mitsubishi in the Bowling World parking lot in Fort Smith. Mrs. Witt, you wanted to talk to us today because I can only imagine how the community support has helped you through this. But I really want to thank everyone in the community because they've been so kind, and there have been so many prayers from so many people for her. And even people I don't know have shown just incredible support. And it's definitely shown me how much Melissa is loved and how much I'm loved, which I didn't know. It's a shame it came out under these circumstances. I don't think anyone knows how they'd act in her place. I can't say exactly what she'd do in this or that situation, but we don't even know what really happened, just that she's missing. I just pray that whoever is holding her shows compassion and lets her go home. Determined not to miss a single detail, investigators carefully study the last known location where Melissa could have been, Bowling World. They're shocked that the parking lot has no surveillance cameras. Moreover, that evening, there was no security at the facility. As it turns out, the place hires guards only on weekends and certain weekdays. Unfortunately, on Thursday, December 1st, they didn't. Hoping to find something, detectives turned to nearby businesses. Alas, the only camera in the vicinity is pointed at a small area by a store entrance, which doesn't help the investigation. With no other leads, law enforcement digs into their archives, compiles a list of offenders with unhealthy tendencies living in Fort Smith and nearby, and those whose histories have escalated to more violent acts over time. If a novice had attacked Whit, she'd likely have been found right there in the lot. To dare something like this and not panic at the amount of blood, the risk of being caught on the spot requires experience. As gruesome as it sounds, meanwhile, local residents, Melissa Whit's family and friends, her pals, continue distributing flyers in hopes she's alive and someone knows something. Maintaining optimism is getting harder, though. First, we felt relief when the car was found, but then worry set in. Okay, but where is she? Because if the car hadn't been found, you could think she just drove off to someone. But time passes, she's not found, and it becomes clear. It's not that at all. This is something else. For the first time in days, police ask for media help. What they thought was a teen running away due to rebellion has turned into something much more horrific. And they can't handle it alone. Not just concerned friends of Melissa are asking for your help, but the police too. They're asking anyone who might have seen this white Mitsubishi, Melissa at Bowling World around 6 p.m. Thursday. Call and report. Even if you think it's nothing, call. Could be the lead they're looking for. Anyone who was at Bowling World Thursday evening is asked to contact the Fort Smith Police Department. Suddenly, the phone starts ringing off the hook. Unfortunately, many calls are useless. People mix up addresses, dates, cars, but some really help at least narrow down the time frame when it likely happened. One person claims around 6:30 p.m. they saw a white woman resembling Melissa or Missy Whit arguing with an African-American man. A sketch of the latter is made that same day and starts circulating in the media. Another woman reports she was at the place with her son and sent him to the car for a book. The child soon returned but brought the wrong one, and she asked him to go again. On his second trip, the boy witnessed an argument between a girl matching Melissa's description and some man he couldn't make out. Yes, he didn't try because their shouts scared him badly. But what the kid remembers clearly is where the quarrel happened, right where the missing Mitsubishi was found. The boy is also sure he saw a brown car at the exit. This occurred no earlier than 6:30 p.m. and no later than 7 o'clock. Exact time, alas, neither mother nor son can provide. Another girl calls and says she observed a couple arguing in the lot. In her opinion, it looked more like a family spat, and she didn't think much of it. But now they think Melissa might have been attacked by someone she knew, and the nature of the dispute she overheard could be misleading. After checking, however, it turns out only one of these incidents may relate to Melissa's disappearance, the one the boy described. That night in the parking lot, at least 2 different incidents occurred that witnesses might have confused for one. One involved a black man. The other was a pair who were actually thrilled about winning bingo money. That could have been mistaken for a fight between Melissa and her abductor. The black man and white woman who visited a nearby bar, they were just arguing with each other. I'm saying there are other possibilities, variants of what happened. Some people who saw the argument in the parking lot were sure they saw Melissa. The people who saw the argument couldn't positively identify Melissa as the girl involved, though the time frame was close and it was considered relevant. It would be wrong not to explore all options, not to release a suspect sketch based on what they saw. But we're not fixating on any race for the suspect. From day 1 to today, it's unknown. While police check tips and search for the missing student, Missy Whit's family offers a reward for any valuable info on her whereabouts. The fund quickly grows to over $30,000. It's eagerly contributed to by people, many of whom don't even know Melissa or Mary and personally. I want to tell her just one thing. I want her to know she's loved more than anything in the world. If she can see or hear me, I really want her to come back. I love her with all my heart. I can't name everyone who's praying and supporting us. There are too many. But I'm endlessly grateful to each one. I appreciate everything that's been done, especially the prayers, because so many people are praying for her. That's very important to me. The entire Fort Smith is indeed praying for Missy Witt.
No exageración.
Different churches of various denominations day after day appeal to their gods, because before the Almighty, whatever name individuals give him, this girl is innocent of anything and doesn't deserve to be simply lost and forgotten. You can't walk through town without seeing Melissa Witt's face. Now Don Media employees want to ensure you can't even leave town without seeing her. Every passing day brings new disappointments and worry for the family and friends of Melissa Witt. Members of Grand Avenue Baptist Church hung this banner and are asking the community to remember Missy in their prayers. We're praying for Missy's safety. We're praying for her safe return. That's what we're asking God for, and we hope He'll help her. People, they're just in their thoughts and prayers. How's the family holding up? Are they still full of hope or? Yes, they're full of hope, and I understand them. I'd be full of hope too. Actually, I still am. Sometimes it's hard not to think of other possibilities, but they keep believing. Faith in the best really helps, say what you will. However, days go by, and Melissa's whereabouts remain unknown. Christmas in Fort Smith passes rather gloomily and somberly. People aren't in the mood for celebration while the fate of the unfortunate Witt is unknown. Friends, family, and community members have already distributed thousands of flyers with her photo and description throughout the River Valley, including truck stops along Interstate 40 in eastern Oklahoma. Since their friend went missing, and days are passing, they need to spread the word as far as possible quickly. So far, they've gotten a few tips, but they don't inspire much hope. Missy's friends start to worry. You said tomorrow is some special day. Tomorrow is my birthday. Wait a second. Like this. Take a deep breath. Are you okay? Tell me what tomorrow is and why it's so important. Tomorrow is my birthday. Missy almost always celebrated it with me since we've known each other. I just want her home on that day. It makes you realize what's really important, and that friendship is one of the most valuable things to me. I really want her back. The Fort Smith Police Department has stepped up efforts to find her, but her friends want to find not just Missy's car. They want to find the person most of them have known since kindergarten. And they want to find her alive and well. Fort Smith.
I'm Charlene Sherk.
Channel 5 News. Missy, right now we're doing everything possible to find you. If you're out there, just hold on. We're doing all we can to find you soon. And we love you. Just hold on. Alas, this sweet girl desperately searching for her friend meets her birthday without her, as well as the new 1995 year. For Melissa's parents, this whole time turns into an endless stretch of darkness. We don't know how to cope with this. You do it step by step. You learn as you go, so to speak. Why do you think people want to help Melissa so much? I suppose it's because of the daughter you raised. Well, I think so many people identify with this because they have kids themselves, and they know what it's like. Even if they haven't gone through it, they can imagine what we feel. The only thing I want is prayer. I think that's the only thing that can help. Anything else? I think that's it. I don't know what else to think of. On January 13th, all hopes of the family, friends, and just residents of Fort Smith shatter into fragments that pierce people's hearts and cause incomparable pain. J. Hill Gardner. This is your 6 o'clock news.
I'm Bridget Jones.
Filling in for Guy Westmoreland, who's out today. And I'm Bert Edson. A body has been found in Franklin County. Could it be the missing Melissa Witt? On Friday, January 13th at 9:40 a.m., two hunters walking in the heart of the Ozark National Forest, about 50 miles from Fort Smith, noticed something strange. About 30 feet from the edge of a dirt road, among the trees, something looks like a mannequin. The men approach, and with each step, it gets harder to proceed because it's a person. Naked, already partially decomposed, lying face down. Strangest of all, it wasn't there yesterday. The guys passed the same route the day before and saw nothing. The hunters call the county sheriff's department. The major crimes unit from Fort Smith heads out immediately. Upon arrival, we found a white female, nude, lying mostly face down off a National Forest Service road, about 30 feet from the roadway. The body had been there for some time. How long, we don't know. We'll leave that to the medical examiner. The body was taken by the medical examiner's office. It's in their van. They're collecting other items and evidence at the scene. When will it be removed from this area? They should leave in the next few minutes. Where will the body go from here? It will go straight to the state crime lab in Little Rock. No family members were called to the scene. The only people here are law enforcement and the witnesses who found the body this morning. Has any family been notified? I don't know about that. Of course, Mary and Whit is notified about what the hunters found in the Ozark forest. However, visual identification of the unfortunate isn't possible due to the degree of decomposition. They need to wait for dental exam results. Nevertheless, everyone understands it's likely Melissa. There are no other missing persons of the same gender, age, build in the region and surroundings. Melissa Whit's relatives and close ones gather at her mother's house to support the unfortunate woman. Journalists arrive here too, including that same Charlene Shirk who tried so hard to make the police do something when the girl's disappearance became known. Today is a heartbreaking day for the family of 19-year-old Melissa Whit. Family members are hoping against hope that the body found this morning in Franklin County isn't Melissa's. A local hunter apparently discovered a young white female in the Ozark National Forest early this morning. Fort Smith police arrived at the wooded area near the Mulberry River around 9:30, but they couldn't positively identify the victim. But dental records preliminarily match those of the UA Fort Smith College student who went missing December 1st. A police chaplain delivered the news to Melissa's mother, drove her home from work. Positive identification hasn't been made yet. The state medical examiner took the body to Little Rock to later determine if it belongs to Melissa or another young white woman. Charlene Shirk, who has been in contact with Melissa's mother throughout this long ordeal, is outside the Whit home in Fort Smith. Is there anything new you can add? Charlene? Well, Bert, we're here at the house in case Mrs. Whit gets additional information. But at this point, there's no news on positive identification. As you can see behind me, family and friends have already started gathering at the home to support Melissa's mother. As they've done throughout this, as I said, heartbreaking ordeal. We've all worn ribbons and hoped against hope. And there's still a glimmer, but in this hour, it seems to be fading. Hope fades, but not the light in Marion's heart. The unfortunate mother enduring the heaviest trial a parent can face. It's cold outside, and she, noticing Charlene through the window, comes out to her and invites her and her colleagues inside to warm up and have hot tea. The journalist refuses, not wanting to disturb the family in such a difficult moment. But Mrs. Whit insists, even in the instant when she's about to learn she's lost her child. The woman doesn't want someone's daughter to freeze through in the piercing wind on this truly grim day. The body was sent to the Arkansas State Crime Lab. There, they compare dental records and confirm what everyone seemed already prepared for. After 45 agonizing days of searching, 19-year-old Melissa Whit is found. When the news reaches Fort Smith, it's like a shockwave rolls through the town, the air compressed by collective shock. But almost immediately, the stun gives way to something else. A fierce drive to understand what happened, dig to the truth, and achieve justice for Melissa, her mother, father, and friends. She deserved a completely different fate, and her loved ones have the right to see the guilty punished. I just hope everyone understands how beautiful she was inside and out. She could have been the perfect American girl. She had a beautiful heart, a beautiful soul. Knowing she's dead is awful. Worse than that is realizing that somewhere out there, the one capable of this is roaming free and could do it again. And suddenly, a new lead appears. A local hunter reports that on December 4th in the Ozark Forest, he spotted a man changing clothes near a dark car parked on the same logging road where Whit was later found. On the back of the auto was a purple or blue sticker. The stranger clearly isn't a hunter.
No žia, no suitable vehicle.
Locals often choose SUVs and pickups. Otherwise, you can't navigate the dirt roads. The witness thought he saw an outsider, but detectives think otherwise. If the man made it there without issues, he either lives nearby or knows the area and all paths to that spot well without getting stuck. The hunter describes the stranger, 20 to 30 years old, about 5 feet 11 inches tall, sturdy with curly hair. Law enforcement checks owners of dark cars in the region and simultaneously continues working through all potentially dangerous people in Fort Smith and vicinity. The medical examiner, meanwhile, sends his conclusion to law enforcement. Melissa's death resulted from asphyxia. In her airways, microparticles of plants and soil characteristic of the Ozark National Forest were found. This means she died right there or very close. There's a head injury, likely from the bowling lot, but it wasn't fatal. However, those blood spots everywhere were indeed from it. The expert is sure the victim fought, but died the same day she was taken from the lot, specifically the night of December 2nd. Whether there was forced physical contact, specialists can't say due to severe decomposition of the lower body. Forensics also compile a report and describe their findings. The crime scene examination shows the hunters were absolutely right when assuring officers that on January 12th, the remains weren't there. In a more remote area from the road, right behind a large rock, impressions of buttocks, legs, heels, and, a more significant amount of decomposition traces on the ground indicate the body was there for a long time, in a sitting position, leaned against the huge boulder. It's also evident she was dragged to where she was eventually found. Experts are sure a person did this, not an animal. And quite recently, investigators recall that on January 13th, when Melissa Witt was found, they got a strange call. Some elderly woman was talking to an officer and simultaneously with some man, seemingly her son, urging him to tell the police something, but he refused. Maybe he moved Witt closer to the road, afraid to seek help from authorities lest he become a suspect, but wanting to help by ensuring the poor girl was finally found. Detectives come to this conclusion for a reason. For 44 days, the poor thing lay where no one would ever find her. The criminal clearly didn't want that and unlikely changed his mind on the 45th. But someone else could have moved her. However, not the caller's son. These people are found easily by the home phone number. The young man is checked. He has no relation to this story. Physical evidence at the scene is minimal and currently almost useless. Near the remains, Cambridge brand cigarette butts were found, an empty soda can. All these items experts carefully packed and took to check saliva. However, while DNA testing is fairly advanced, its capabilities are still limited. They've recently introduced the CODIS database, where by law they'll enter samples from all inmates, but there's not much data in it now. Maybe they'll get a profile, but what to compare it to? Plus, it's not certain all this was left in the forest by the person police are seeking. Melissa's clothes, shoes, purse, the second gold earring, and her Mickey Mouse watch, which the girl wore without taking off, are missing. Investigators assume the criminal might have kept all mentioned items as trophies, common for serials, or simply destroyed them out of fear of being caught, if this was indeed his first crime of such scale. Anyway, right now there are more questions than answers. The brown, black, and dark gray cars found by cops registered in Fort Smith and surroundings don't lead authorities to the perpetrator's name. They're clean. No blood, other traces, nothing, and no connections to Melissa Witt or crime for their owners. Unexpectedly, a tip comes to detectives from a young reporter at the local newspaper. Something painfully similar happened in Houston. One journalist is sitting in the newsroom, scanning various papers. Standard practice in 1995, without widespread internet and tons of info sources. Want to know what's happening beyond your town? Study other regional publications manually. That's how he stumbles upon an article from Houston. The piece says a man named Larry Swearingen was arrested for the death of a young college student named Melissa Trotter. The girl's face, hairstyle very much remind him of Melissa Witt's appearance. Again, the name. Is this a coincidence? The guy starts comparing the cases, and the list of parallels grows. Both victims are students, dark-haired, died from strangulation, found in the woods. The journalist contacts detectives and tells them about this case. Law enforcement first checks where Swearingen was in November-December 1994. And it turns out he was in Clinton, Arkansas at his grandparents' house. And that's only a 2-hour drive from Fort Smith. It looks promising. However, Larry Swearingen's lawyers, preparing to defend him on the charge of Melissa Trotter's death, block any attempts to question their client on other possible crimes. Talking to him will be possible, at best, after the trial, and the proceedings are scheduled for 1998. All this could be bypassed if investigators had any solid evidence or witnesses, but right now there aren't. Unable to reach Swearingen, detectives first despair, but then pull themselves together and return to searching for other suspects. Though the Witt and Trotter cases are monstrously similar, it doesn't rule out coincidence, and they need a completely different person. That's how they soon come across one William Dillard Taylor, a registered offender previously accused of unhealthy relations with girls against their will, and many other no less cruel violations. His name catches the cops' attention, including because at the time of Melissa Witt's disappearance, he lived near Fort Smith. Currently, the man is wanted for failing to appear in court on another abuse charge. Police are searching rural roads in Franklin, Washington, and Crawford counties in an attempt to find Taylor, wanted on a rape charge. But police also want to question him regarding the abduction of Melissa Witt. When Taylor is finally arrested in that same 1995, his ex-wife breathes a sigh of relief. She couldn't protect their own and stepchildren from him. But now the kids will be safe. The psycho's current wife, however, tries to justify William and insists he's innocent. When news that William Dillard Taylor is in police custody hit the air, his ex-wife sighed in relief. It was just, oh God. Thank God. It took a load off my shoulders. Taylor is accused of assaulting his daughter and stepdaughter, but Taylor's current wife and his sister believe he's in no way a dangerous person. And at the same time, they believe he's not guilty on all charges. She also says her husband is in no way connected to the disappearance of Morgan Nick and Melissa Witt. He was with me the night the little girl went missing, and there's not a chance of dragging William Taylor to a bowling alley. Among other things, William Taylor is also suspected in the disappearance of 6-year-old Morgan Nick in June 1995, which happened in Alma, very close to Fort Smith. The child was taken literally during a baseball game, and since then no one's seen her. When I saw that name, I shuddered, honestly. Her story has crossed my path before, and I've gathered some material. But then I thought it wasn't time yet. But now maybe it's a sign. Let's do this. You give 20,000 likes under this video, and I'll do a big investigation on the Morgan Nick case. Well, for now, back to our story. Detectives throw all efforts into finding proof that Taylor might be involved in Melissa Witt's death. However, this doesn't lead to uncovering his guilt. There's nothing except the fact that the madman lived nearby at the time. In 1996, he's found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. That same year, another guy pops up on police radar, caught after an unsuccessful attempt to take a girl who was just walking home from work on a deserted street in Fort Smith. In a minute or two, he grabbed my right arm and I broke free. The detainee turns out to have a very extensive criminal history, but the main check shows that in 1994, this character left not just the town but even Arkansas state borders for a while. And he did it the day after Melissa's disappearance. Hope reappears to hold the guilty in her death accountable. However, no matter how hard detectives try, they find no other facts or evidence linking the suspect to the Witt case. In 1997, an incident in Colorado somewhat resembles Melissa Witt's case. A certain Travis Dale Crouch attacks a girl who, unfortunately, doesn't avoid abuse, but the unfortunate manages to save her life by fleeing, after which she immediately goes to the police and turns him in. Not only the similarity of episodes draws detectives' attention. Crouch is Arkansas-born. In October 1994, he got out of prison where he served for another charge. And at the time of Melissa Witt's disappearance, he lived in Fort Smith with his parents near the Ozark Forest and worked as a carpenter at a church camp located just 1.2 miles from where, on January 13, 1995, the student was found. The man's mother claims her son wasn't in town on December 1st. However, a friend of this family, despite warm relations with them, is sure the woman is likely lying or confusing something, because it was then Travis stopped by her on his mother's car and picked up a puppy for his younger brother. The vehicle was bronze-colored. By the way, it can easily be called brown. Remember, that's the color the boy who witnessed the argument in the lot that evening pointed to. The transport, having changed a couple of owners, is found and subjected to very thorough analysis. However, no blood traces or other biological fluids linkable to Melissa are in it. Hairs, fabric fibers, and other such elements are collected and sent to the lab. Alas, incriminating Crouch in the attack on Witt with any of these evidences isn't possible. In 1998, the trial of Larry Swearingen, the one who attacked Melissa Trotter in another town, happens. And the newspaper article about him drew the journalist's attention, who in turn passed the info to detectives. He's sentenced to death, but lawyers still shield him from any interrogations as they're preparing appeals. Investigators are sure Larry Swearingen took Melissa Witt's life. The two cases are too similar, almost identical, but they can't prove anything. No direct evidence. However, 2 years later, something happens that makes them doubt their conclusions. After all, a new suspect appears. 6 years after Melissa Witt's demise in 2000, another potential suspect emerges. Charles Ray Vines. He's arrested in Fort Smith after breaking into someone's home and attacking a 16-year-old girl. Fortunately, her father arrived in time, and though the poor thing suffered greatly, the man engaged in a fight with the psychopath, subdued him, and called police and ambulance, thus saving his daughter. What happened shocked society. Vines grew up here, in a good home, in a family that loved him. Mother protected her son. Father was strict but fair. Many know Charles and respected him until now. From youth, he works as a builder and often helps his dad, who even in old age works as an undertaker. In small towns, such people are valued, and suddenly this. Plus, the accused is long a husband and father himself. It doesn't fit in the head. Police are sure the detainee isn't doing this for the first time. Moreover, they see a familiar pattern in his actions. Intrusion, assault driven by intimate interest, and attempt on life. Previously, similar incidents resulted in 2 women's deaths. The only difference is they were very elderly. The first case now linked to Vines happened in 1993. Patrol responded to a missing person call. It was about Juanita Wofford, a retiree living in an overgrown and half-ruined house on Fort Smith's outskirts. 2 members of her church noticed she didn't come to service and went to check if all was well. They found break-in signs and called police. Officers arrived almost instantly and immediately noticed the torn screen door and kicked-in front door. The frame was splintered. Inside, half the living room was soaked in blood, splatter on ceiling and walls. The pool stretched to the kitchen and bedroom, where the woman was. Juanita lay face down in socks, shoes, and a shirt hiked up to her shoulder blades. The psycho abused her, then stabbed her. Near the bed, police found a rag with traces of biological fluid resembling semen. Around the bed, right on the wallpaper, were urine spots. Forensics cut those sections as evidence and sent to the state lab for analysis. Then the main suspect was a local named Denny Bennett, pointed out by his own sisters. The women feared their odd brother, who stayed home days and wandered streets nights, including the victim's area. He repeatedly told them how he killed several people and starved his dogs. In the man's home, police found many bottles of urine. The psycho really had such a gross fetish. However, comparing biological fluid samples and materials showed that despite all his weirdness, he wasn't involved in the Wofford attack. And all stories of criminal exploits were just the fantasy of a mentally unwell person. The second case, the death of Ruth Henderson, also an elderly lady. Several visual inspections of the house showed blood only at the bedroom entrance from the living room and in the middle bedroom. I won't bore you with details as the pattern is the same. Intrusion, abuse, killing, urine everywhere. Now, years later, specialists do comparative analysis and confirm that semen and other samples from the death scenes of Juanita Wofford and Ruth Henderson indeed belonged to Charles Ray Vines, until now considered a good husband, father, builder, and man helping his father in the funeral business. Ahead of trial, the prosecution offers the accused a deal. In exchange for truth about other victims, they promise life, and he agrees. The Juanita Wofford case is now closed. Charles Vines admitted before the judge he's guilty in the woman's case he attacked in 1993. The deal was, police will ask Vines questions about unsolved cases, including Melissa Witt, Morgan Nick, Lori Murchison, Dora Dow, and Juanita Wofford. If Vines tells the truth, he lives. Vines is sentenced to 3 life terms without parole instead of death, as promised. Though involvement in the cases of Melissa Witt and Morgan Nick, which he was also suspected in, he denies categorically. Why did he become a person of interest in those cases if the patterns of those crimes don't match what Charles usually did? The simple. Such a clear pattern in his case formed because the criminal yielded to a certain impulse, and then, as it sounds, favorable circumstances aided him. No one to intervene until he faced the attack from the father of his last victim. But the foundational factor in forming suspicion in police eyes usually isn't the template the offender follows, but the level of cruelty in his criminal history. The situation doesn't always play into the villain's hands. So more important isn't what he managed before, but what he's capable of. Could such a psychopath be tempted seeing Morgan Nick without parents nearby, among a huge crowd of unfamiliar people? Absolutely. Could he, for example, get drunk and harass Melissa Witt in the lot? Not necessarily to take her initially, but flirt, invite somewhere, but face rejection and snap? Easily. After conviction, Vines is thoroughly questioned on both episodes, but he firmly stands his ground. Says, "I didn't touch those." With that, the investigation into Witt's death stalls again for many years. On March 20th, 2011, in Fort Smith, Arkansas, 75-year-old Mary Ann Witt passes away, never seeing justice for her daughter. The case is periodically reviewed without much success, unfortunately. Larry Swearingen, accused in Melissa Trotter's death, again becomes police focus in 2012. In his cell during a routine search, documents mentioning Melissa Witt's story and some personal notes are found, which don't directly confirm the inmate's involvement but indicate too strong an interest in someone else's, or not, crime. Swearingen, however, refuses to talk to investigators up to his execution. That's what his lawyers recommended, despite all lost appeals. The reason is simple. Sometimes governors impose moratoriums on executions and theoretically the document could be changed, expanding who it saves. That's why lawyers advised him to stay silent and not add to his criminal history with other incidents. By the way, the investigation into Melissa Trotter's case was quite tangled. I'd even say strange. Suspicion fell on Larry Swearingen almost immediately. He was seen with the girl the day she vanished. His phone pinged near the forest where she was later found. And near Swearingen's trailer, a pantyhose scrap was found, supposedly the weapon. It seemed everything pointed to him, but as proceedings went, the picture crumbled. DNA under Melissa's nails belonged to another man. 5 independent experts stated, the body couldn't have lain in the woods 25 days, so Trotter died later, when Swearingen was already in jail. Threatening calls the girl received weren't from him. The medical examiner retracted her prior conclusions. And the found pantyhose fragment, the main evidence per specialists, didn't match the crime weapon at all. But despite all doubts, appeals, and contradictions, in August 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to review the case. And that same month, Larry Swearingen was executed by injection. His last words were, "Lord, forgive them. They know not what they do." After the sentence execution that year, the FBI reopens the investigation into Melissa Witt's death and sends agents to Charles Vines to re-interview him. The idea arises because in materials collected over years on the case, they find interview records and calls from his former cellmate, with whom they essentially discussed Morgan Nick. But then, apparently, confusion arose. The man was asked questions about what Vines allegedly told him about Morgan, and he repeated some nonsense contradicting her disappearance details. During a phone call with his wife, this person clearly indicated his words were misunderstood. "Hello. This is a free call from an inmate at Cummins Prison. This call is recorded and monitored. Hello, dear. Are you on the line? Yes. This morning, someone came to my work, and he was interested in Morgan Nick. Yes. He was from the FBI. He told me who he is and all that, showed me his badge. It was about that statement you wanted me to file at the Alma police station that time. Yes. Good. He's checking it. That man, what was his name? The one who attacked all those women. Yes. Vines. Yes. Charles Vines, he said, never confessed to his cellmate about involvement in the Morgan Nick case. He talked about Melissa Witt. Good. It was about Vines. He was checking. He said after he saw that, he started checking it. This has nothing to do with the Nick case. It was Melissa Witt. Talking to the FBI agent with Vines in 2019, however, doesn't happen. They find him gravely ill, essentially on his deathbed. And already in September, Charles dies without revealing the truth about Melissa Witt. And further investigation shows he likely had something to tell. A woman who worked with Charles Vines' mother tells agents that her colleague's son sometimes came to them in a uniform shirt with the local bowling league name. Having one meant being a club member, and Melissa Witt vanished in the Bowling World parking lot. As you remember, the now-deceased suspect likely visited there more than once. Investigators also learned that on December 1, 1994, Vines was supposed to do a work order from his father's business, the undertaker, to install a headstone at a cemetery just 8 minutes' drive from where Witt was found in the Ozark National Forest. Plus, he knew the area well, had a hand-drawn map of the district, and often stayed in a small improvised cabin, now destroyed, also not far from Melissa's discovery site. As an experiment nearly 30 years later, the FBI and police returned to the area with the best cadaver dogs they could find. Not far from the huge boulder where Melissa Witt was originally left, they find an old Cambridge brand cigarette butt, on which Vines' DNA is later found. Recall, among evidence found near the victim in 1995 were butts of the same brand, but they weren't tested before. The area was checked very thoroughly then. Accordingly, the new artifact appeared later, indicating Vines visited here after the poor girl was found. Nearby, among branches and leaves, they found an old mattress cover, almost rotted. Experts process it and, oh wonder, extract biological fluid samples matching swabs. Whose, do you think? The same Charles Ray Vines. Could this be coincidence? Considering he, as now clear, frequented the area before and after the girl's disappearance. Theoretically, yes. But Vines denied it and in interrogations in the early 2000s claimed the info about a work order nearby that day was incorrect. No such came in, he said. In 2025, detectives send for testing the butts from the crime scene and the soda can found in 1995, as well as Melissa's nail clippings, previously unchecked. It was assumed there might be attackers' skin cells under them. After all, everything indicated the unfortunate fought for her life. The analysis results disappoint. No trace of male DNA, so they decide to examine them even more closely and see if there's foreign female DNA. Work on profiling from saliva on cigarette filters and the can is ongoing. It's a long, complex process as samples are old, quantity limited. Perhaps soon the world will learn the true culprit's name in Melissa Witt's death. The investigation continues. The FBI also deemed it important to check blood from each pool found in the bowling club lot. As it turned out, back in 1995, they inspected only 3 out of 10. Confirmed they belonged to Melissa and stopped there. The author of a book on the girl's story, however, has another version. LaDonna Humphrey believes the unfortunate's life was taken by someone she knew, whose name she mentioned repeatedly in her diary. From info obtained from this guy's former neighbor, he kept Mickey Mouse wristwatches at his home, identical to what the deceased wore. Who he is and how he was connected to the victim is currently unknown. The potential suspect's name has never been mentioned anywhere before. And if it happens or the story gets its finale thanks to specialists confirming the 1995 can and butts belong to Charles Vines, you'll learn about it first on this channel.